Am I talking, honey?
You said turn the camera on. I assumed you knew what you wanted to
April
say.
15th, 2022. And last night we were going to be in a harvest host, which we were really looking forward to. But last minute, because it was going to be raining and the surface there was grass, and we did a little bit more deep diving on the satellite images. Looked like there was a lot of low-hanging trees for a big rig.
Yeah,
we looked at the reviews.
Had a lot of reviews.
And the reviews are very important for you to look at when you're a Harvest Host member. So, and we trust what people say. They said maybe it's not the best choice for a big rig, so we did not stay there.
Yeah.
But we, being responsible Harvest Hosters, we did cancel our reservation through the system, and everything was okay. And last minute we picked this place out, which was a really nice $49 cash a night stay. We plugged in. We did not even hook up water or electric. We were able to have a really nice movie night last night.
Yeah, they've got a nice hookups. Everything's really well trimmed, and the cable is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're on our way today to Birmingham, Alabama. We're going to stay 2 days in a campground there specifically so we can check out the
Civil Rights Museum and see what else we can find too.
Right.
We only have 1 day, so we're hopefully going to squeeze a lot into 1 day.
We're actually on our way from Florida now. And we're on our way to our hometown now. But along the way, rather than just burn diesel, we're going to stop at a lot of different places. So here's the one of the tasks we have to do on travel day. On camera, showing that I'm a good husband, and I take the garbage out.
He does take the garbage out. And you are a good husband. So you can tell we're close to, we're on the edge of where hurricanes happen, because we were just talking to the camp host here, and they said that it's a small park and it can be somewhat tight, but they have a lot of extra areas right over here that they reserve for when they're doing evacuations for a hurricane, where people come and drive and they'll just park here. It's a little bit more safe here. So that's kind of a cool thing, but man, you know we're near hurricane area when you see that. All right, Mark is warming up the car. So when we stay for just 1 night, we usually leave the minivan hooked up, as long as there's room for us to keep it hooked up. And as you can see, we have just the electric, no water, no sewer.
Mention then that you have to be a little bit more efficient when you use your restroom facilities and monitor your flushes.
And did you? That's the big question.
So before we leave, we have to warm up the Honda, and I have a procedure that I go through for the transmission to put it in neutral. And yeah, I know I'm not supposed to be pulling a 2013 Honda, and if you want to know about it, send us an email at ourjourneyandmiles@gmail.com, and I can send you how and why I do it. I don't necessarily recommend you do it. We took a chance on the 13, realizing that it had the same transmission as the 4, which they did at that time allow you to pull. We've been lucky so far.
Yeah, it's not wood.
Yeah. But that's not why I'm mentioning it. What I'm doing right now is I'm getting ready to put it in neutral again, because you'll notice we're still hooked up. And once I come off the jacks, the whole motorhome kind of goes like this to come down. And when it does that, it moves this point, which moves everything here, and I don't want to bust up something in the transmission. So I want to get this in neutral and ready to drive, ready to pull, before I start moving anything on the
jacks.
And I already turned the air conditioning off in case Sue comes out here prematurely and would disconnect this. So technically,
Sue would never do that.
Sue would never do that. Sue is awesome. Everybody knows
Right,
that.
let's show you. We have it pretty much tidied up and closed up. One of the things we do is we plug in the tire monitor. The camera's ready to go, not plugged in yet. We have our GPS all plugged in. And you can see we've got our chairs all strapped down, snacks ready to go. Everything cleared out so we can close up. And yes, we leave a mess on the desk and things on the counter. Mark's a slow driver. We're hoping that'll save us. And then we've got our chair up on the bed. Everything done in the back. Got our massage table tucked away. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff in here. Gotta remember, we're full-time. We carry our whole life in here. Ready to close up. And now we're off to Hoover, Alabama, near Birmingham. It'll take us about 3.5 hours, not including the fuel or rest stops. We're almost there, and you can see right here is a new brewery within walking distance to where we're going to be staying. We'll be checking that out later. We're at the Hoover Met Complex RV Park. The complex is a former minor league baseball park located in the suburb of Hoover. The Met has been transformed for sporting events such as football, soccer, beach volleyball, but the field also can be set up for concerts and clinics and all kinds of other events. We reserved our site online, and when we saw it, it looked pretty short for us. So we called the office and drove around to find one more suited for us. We're about 45 feet long, not including the minivan. And we decided to use this site, but still didn't have enough room to park the van. We noticed the people next to us had their truck in the open site, so we called the office, and they said that site is open until the day we leave. Lucky us. So we just parked there. But this is something to consider when you come here. If you're long, you may have to park your toad somewhere else.
We saw that there's a brew pub.
Oh yeah.
And a pizza place. And it's funny because Sue always says that I have powerful thoughts, and when we were driving here, I said, I want there to be a pizza place right built into the RV park, and I'll be dipped if it is.
Right, with the brewery,
right.
So we'll do a little beer tasting too. Come on.
Right.
It's Friday night.
And it's a pizza by the slice food truck, which is probably better because the pizzas, literally, when you go to the pizza store, they're about 3.5 feet in diameter. We'll put a picture of the pizza up there.
I think they were made on one of those old-fashioned metal snow coasters.
Yeah.
Those from the snow country. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, let's ask.
Here's a bird's eye view of the brewery. As you can see, it's a very family-friendly place. I swear there were more kids here than adults. We had a really good time. Then we walked back to the RV park and past the complex, and there was a local prom going on. The theme was A Night in Morocco with this hot air balloon, and they actually had 2 live camels at the entrance. You know, the things you see when you travel.
What'd you forget, Sue?
Oh my God. Every YouTuber needs one of these.
Excellent.
I'm not a good YouTuber.
Excellent. Where are you going, honey?
So exciting day for me. We're going to the Civil Rights Institute, and we're getting picked up for a tour of the Fight for Rights tour with Red Clay Tours. And we're in Birmingham, so we're going to see a lot of history. I'm excited about just seeing how it all played out.
Typical Mark and Sue campground, complete with lots of trees, and you can have this, honey, and lots of foliage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is when you're a tourist, This is heaven. You pull in, you got good, reliable power, good water.
Yeah. We are in Birmingham, Alabama, and right behind me is the 16th Street Baptist Church, where there was actually a bombing in 1963, and 4 little girls were killed. So it's a historical spot, and right across, this is the Civil Rights Institute. So a museum, we're going to go check that out. And what we're doing now is we're waiting. We're going to be picked up right here at the Institute by Red Clay Tours. And we're taking one of their tours. They have several for Birmingham, depends on what you want to do. They've got one that talks about the history of Birmingham as far as the Magic City. They've got an eating tour. They've got a brewery tour. We're doing the Civil Rights Tour. It's a Fight for Rights tour. And they're going to pick us up right here. They do pick you up at hotels if you're staying downtown somewhere, but we're not. We're way out in an RV park. So this is their first stop, and this is where we're going to get on. So it should be very interesting. There's a beautiful park right behind me dedicated to the civil rights movement too. On this tour, we went to many of the major landmarks from the civil rights era in Birmingham, and we learned about the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights, the KKK, and a whole host of organizations battling for power, control, and the fate of Birmingham. There's a Birmingham Civil Rights Heritage Trail which winds through downtown, marking significant locations along the 1963 Civil Rights March route. It's designed as a self-guided tour, and the route directs you along this historic pathway by maps at each location. The trail talks about how both common people and the spiritual leaders took on the fight against segregation and other forms of racism. We started the tour by hearing about the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing, which is across the street from the Institute. Here, 4 members of a local KKK chapter planted 19 sticks of dynamite attached to a timing device near this window where a commemorative plaque now is. This is where 4 girls were killed. Kitty corner from the church, you'll find the 4 spirits sculpture of the girls that died. On the bench, you can see the photos and names along with the sister of one of the girls who lost her eye and 2 teenage boys who were shot to death later that day. Next stop was Lynn Park, where we heard more history, including the damage to a monument after the protests in 2020 after the murder of George Floyd. We made our way through the city with many stories of the area, and then found ourselves at the Bethel Baptist Church. This church was the headquarters for the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights and also the site of 3 separate bombings. In 1956, unknown persons tried to kill Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth by placing 16 sticks of dynamite under his bedroom window. Shuttlesworth somehow escaped unhurt even though his house was heavily damaged, and you can see the white frame here shows where the house once stood. Then in 1958, a bomb was seen on the east side of the church and moved to a vacant lot before exploding. A third bombing was in 1962 when a dynamite blast rocked the basement at this church, but from what I understand, no one was hurt. Bombings occurred so frequently in Birmingham during the Civil Rights era that the city was often called Bombingham. This is a house that Shuttlesworth and his family moved into after the bombing. And there was a house right next door to it where people would actually stand and keep watch and guard. And it's from this viewpoint that somebody noticed the second bomb's placement. After more touring of historical places and their stories, we ended up back at Kelly Ingram Park where we started. Kelly Ingram Park contains emotionally powerful sculptures depicting the civil rights struggle in Birmingham. The park served as an assembly spot for activities for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and other groups in the movement. Birmingham police and firemen attacked civil rights demonstrators when police filled the jails with mass arrests and depleted the ranks of adult demonstrators. The Southern Christian Leadership Conference called on the city's children to join the protest. Then there's Public Safety Commissioner Bull Connor, whom we heard many stories of corruption about him. He ordered police to arrest child picketers, some as young as 6 years of age, and by the next day, 1,000 children had been jailed.
The last point was the amount of money to get the kids out of jail. It was going to take $250,000.
After the tour, we went into the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute. We could only take photos, no video. But here you can experience an interpretation of a segregated city in the 1950s. You can also check out a replica of the Freedom Riders bus and even the actual jail cell door from behind which Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. penned his famous Letter from Birmingham Jail. In my opinion, the Institute was great, but the experience of going to the actual places where history was made and hearing the details of the events was emotional and moving, and I highly recommend doing the tour. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.